Well, hello everyone. Since the early access build of EndZone A World Apart was sent to me from the publishers Assemble Entertainment and Whisper Games and the game devs Gently Mad Studios, I decided to make this video of my first impressions of the game that was played for 2 hours during my Twitch stream on April 2nd. It is a bit late, but when you got other videos to make, then you gotta do what you gotta do. So I'd say the tutorial definitely needs to have the world automatically pause so that while you are reading and figuring out the objectives and whatnot and how the game is played, you don't have to worry about your survivors end up dying because their needs are not met, which is as if you're playing the game without the tutorial. So but since I can't really think of anything else much to say, I figure why not tell you all about what other people are reviewing the game for in early access. I like this comment a lot because it clearly says you are survivors most certainly and you will build but you will also fail, which happened to me during the tutorial. I think twice until like because the first time it was me just reading and then I failed because I couldn't meet the food requirements and whatnot because I was mostly just focusing on water and then livable space because I didn't realize how the hunting area situation worked as well as of course the plants and crops and whatnot. So but it is a less rebuild, more a sort of arcadey like increasingly difficult survival effort limited by a soft cap and a hard cap on how long you survive effort can last. The soft cap is the weather and radiation despite your survivors emerging on the surface to what is supposed to be improving conditions, they actually start out mild and will get increasingly bad. Yes, that's literally what I end up having to go through when I was playing the game. Pretty much when I was going somewhat successful at first through the tutorial the second time, and of course through the regular game, I was able to last for a longer because at least I understood the game a bit more. But once you make it past the 100 season mark, those are rare, replaced with the drought and highly irradiated rains and sandstorms, which I didn't get that far. I mostly was getting just the highly irradiated rains just out of nowhere, which I thought it was the game being very buggy because it gave no indication, as far as I can tell, of the weather system at all. It literally just randomly started raining one evening or whatever it was, and the green radiation area is just crazy impact everywhere. I'm like, okay, I thought it was buggy, but I guess it's raining. There is little rhyme or reason in the radiation actually getting worse the more generations go by as you move further away from when catastrophe that caused the apocalypse took place. Yeah, like it really shouldn't get worse if we're so much far into time, but they were ridiculous. So, the hard cap is resources. Some, like food, wood, and water, are renewable. However, scavenging supplies are finite. Once they run out, your settlement's final days will be approaching, which was happening to me during the successful tutorial somewhat, but that was me just being dumb and dying. But when I was just playing the regular game, pretty much I had to move my resource stuff constantly just to shuffle, and it was just a pain in the neck. But if you can survive constant drought, sandstorm, high radiation with equipment salvaging provides you, you cannot survive them without it, pretty much. It's literally ridiculous. But another comment of the wet, dry, weather cycle moves too fast and is far too random for you to plan your crop fields effectively, which is like I said, they really need to have a system in place to like give you at least some sort of calendar to be like preparing for any weather changes because at least then you can at least somewhat plan ahead. But of course, I didn't really run into having my crops affected at the time because I was just getting radiation just affecting my survivors in general. But I do definitely agree with recyclers work too slowly, and so do the craftsmen. So even with just as many fishermen, hunters, gatherers, farmers, water gatherers as before. The drought, everyone's tools are now broken, so you produce even less food and water than before. I definitely, when I was first using the recyclers, I didn't even understand why it seemed like they're going so slow because I don't know. I really don't understand why they made them so slow. So now everyone is in poor health because your builders seemingly can't find their way out to build the herbal hunts, and it's too far away and produces too slowly. Yeah, I never. My footage that I have, I literally don't. I believe the moment I created the herbal hut, I didn't have survivors to actually use it. So it's just so sad when it's like because making the clothing and everything was just being so slow. So no info can be found on how fast fishermen, hunters, gatherers produce. So who even knows which one works best exactly? Because it's like I wouldn't mind growing a giant farm or something if I knew that worked well. But of course, I also don't know about hunters because it was literally just a constant back and forth between needing it, not needing it, and whatnot. As well as, of course, fishermen. I don't even know how much that it was actually useful because it didn't really work too much because the moment the rain came in or the moment that people started starving, everyone just kept dying. So I'm like, I couldn't really do it much. So settlers take a ridiculous moral hit from their unburied dead relatives, which it's this post-nuclear apocalypse, and you expect a nice, neat burial for them for some reason. Which definitely, when I got that warning about it, the whole oh uh you need to have a cemetery and whatnot. I'm like, why? Like I understand. Like why did they have to like have that thing in place of oh you need a specific area? Like I don't know. I just feel like if you don't even have a damn church, you might as well just simply have their grave right by your house instead of whole system in place just to be like, hey, I don't want to like, cause it literally once I had a giant amount of survivors just die, and as well as kids probably dying, everyone literally was just so depressed and didn't want to move on. It's like I literally ended up with only I think two or three people by the end of it, and then they immediately died, so I couldn't do anything about it. But last comment that I wanted to talk about was of course, this is reiterating what I've said before. Protect your settlers from radiation by making protective clothing, masks, and radioactive suits, which doesn't really help when the crafting system for it is much too slow. And I think, if I remember correctly, you're limited to like two people, and that's like, it just, they really need to up the amount of cloth and whatnot that you can produce at a time because I know I didn't think that the scarves and whatnot that were being made, I didn't realize whether or not they were even being given to my survivors. So the devs really need to put in place a way to know, hey, you're actually making a difference with this, rather than just, hey, here's what's being made. We don't know where it's going. So, because for all I know, they could be just put into storage for some stupid reason instead of given to the survivors. So, crops can become contaminated. The player must use settlers to remove this. The player can also cover crops to protect them, but they'll need to keep them supplied with water by using irrigator. I didn't get that far, so I'm sure obviously it's possible with the amount of people that put way more hours than me, which I only did two because there's one stream. I definitely am going to be revisiting the game just to be like, oh, okay, they actually updated it. So I don't know how much of my information will be true or what, so players can send expeditions to ruins to find supplies and more seeds. This is done by first sending out a scout, then choosing supplies and the right settlers for the job. I didn't get that far, so I'm sure it's possible, but if it is, I'm sure there's plenty of footage out there. There, of course, is two main disasters: dust storms, which I didn't experience, but apparently they do damage buildings and whatnot, and then epidemics, which need the herbal meds in the hospitals, which I didn't really get the chance to do because people were dying too quickly for me to be able to use or any herbs. So Running out of food and water counts as a disaster, which really sucks a lot. Of course, for the art and music, I definitely find it on point, just like this person. I definitely appreciated the background music that was being done because that's why I was at first like, I hell, I don't even understand why the intro is so loud when you first start the game. Like, it's just ridiculous.
Our ancestors have destroyed the world.
In general, I'd say that the game definitely should be bought. I would say wait until the game is fully launched so that people can just hopefully get a better experience than what most of the community and me have experienced, because especially the tutorial alone really should have had the world paused so that when you're reading it, your survivors aren't treated as if it's the regular game, because it literally, the only difference was the fact of the tutorial had the whole objective shown to show you what you should be focusing on. Beyond that, they really, like, if they're going to have that situation, they might as well have a lower degree of danger for your survivors. Something that will make it rain less and whatnot and make them not consume as much food and water, because it's just ridiculous that when you're reading and trying to figure stuff out for the gameplay, because I'm not too familiar with these type of games. So I've only played a few games like this, and I've always usually end up making the whole system go bankrupt or what have you. So, but I hope you all enjoyed this video. I very much appreciate the publisher and devs for allowing me to get EndZone. I know I'm glad that I was able to get it because it was like a last minute request for the game. So, but I very much appreciate it, and I look forward to playing this game in future streams, and maybe I'll do an update for impressions when it gets close to out of early access, but we will have to wait to see. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you all enjoyed the video.